Well, we've made it to September. Want to bring you the latest data here in the Austin metro area. I'm going to title this video All About Supply. And the reason is really that is what's underlying our market right now, what's driving the story. But the reason I bring that up is I'm having lots of conversations with sellers and particularly landlords who feel like, Austin's dead. No more jobs here. Everybody's moving back to California. And I want to say the death of Austin is greatly exaggerated. In fact, I've been a proponent and watch all my videos. The long term tailwinds for Austin, the growth, the jobs are still all there. What we have done is flooded the market with short term supply. I'll get to that in a second. So let's talk about the tailwinds. Austin tops list as number one large economic boomtown in the US for 2025, not the pandemic, right now. So let me take you over to that article. This came out from Co-working Cafe. They do a lot of studies that look at economic growth. These are the cities that they are outlining as kind of the cities driving the future. Here's what they had to say about Austin and why they ranked it number one. So Austin claims the top spot, driven by a remarkable 51% surge in its gross domestic product, fueled by rapid job creation in tech manufacturing and professional services. And they also saw a 12% increase in housing stock supply, meaning more residential units were built to meet that population. And we also had a 4% rise in educational attainment. We had a 33% rise in median earnings increase, a 71% jump in new business applications. So not only do we have tech, but we got government, education, creative services, and we have a regional GDP of $248 billion as of 2023. We're doing fine. But here's what they also had to say about the cooling market. It says, while some cooling is evident in big tech hiring, and in housing demand, Austin's multi-sector growth makes it the undisputed leader. All right, well, let's talk about the apartments. Let's get to supply, because to me, this is the story. Austin is building more new apartments than any other U.S. city. And by the way, that's on room count, which means we're not as big as Dallas or Houston or Atlanta, and yet we're building more apartments than they are. So Austin is number one in apartment construction. This year, 2025, we're going to be adding another 15,000 new apartment units to the market. New apartment construction, that's nationally. Let me get down to Austin. Austin's number one, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth. Last year, we added 21,500 to the market. So we're adding 15,000 this year, 21,000 the year before. We added more the year before. So in the last 3 years, Austin has added, I think, a little over 41,000 new apartments to the market. So I want you to visualize empty apartments, 41,000 of them. That's like a football stadium. So, and that's on top of all the apartments we already have. It's on top of all the stuff we already have. It's on top of the single family homes and the duplexes and the condos and the apartments. And so you've added basically a subdivision. 41,000 is a lot of people. I mean, Hutto only has like 30,000 people. So you've added a subdivision empty that now you have to absorb with all these people moving to the market. You also have all the single family homes that we're building. And quietly, we also have, in my estimation, somewhere probably around 5 to 10,000 additional single family homes, which are regular people like you and me. Maybe they tried to sell their house, they couldn't sell it. They turn it into what? A rental. And we call those accidental landlords. And so for the last 3 years, because the market's been adjusting on price, now you've got that supply out there. So let's call it 50,000 additional units of supply that all turn into rentals. None of those are for sale. They're all rentals. Well, what is that going to do to the rent market? It's going to soften it. Rents have come down. These apartments are giving away discounts and things like that, which makes what? It makes everybody go, well, gosh, why don't I just keep renting? It's good to be a tenant. And so that takes people out of what? The buyer market. People that naturally would have said, oh, my rent's going up. Like, I'd rather just buy a house, right? Like they're going to wait. They're going to wait until they get some pressure to buy. And they're also waiting for things like interest rates. So this is all about supply. It's this big pig in the python of supply that has to work its way through the market. But what's happening with our population growth? So this is the story I think everybody's getting dead wrong. There's been headlines that population growth is decreasing. Well, that's just like inflation coming down. We still have population growth. It's just not quite as rapid of a pace as we saw during the pandemic. But if you look at this, we had a 2.79% increase in population in 21, 2.39 in 2022, 2.06 in 2023, and we added 150,000 people in 3 years. Okay, so that's a lot of people. Here's what our population looks like right now. Here's the slowdown. This little angle of the bell curve just tilted like that. I think we're fine, folks. If you go back to the year 2000, the metro area had 911,000 people. We now have 2.3 million. In 25 years, we have tripled in size. We're growing like a weed. Calm down. We've got to spend time to let all these people get settled, rent all this stuff up. The apartments are filling up. It's going to take time. They're going to slow down some of that development because of the cost of capital over the next 2 or 3 years. And all you need is an uptick in buyer demand. That's really the next phase of this. So let's look at this. This is going to be where we are right now. So this is the Austin Metro. You can see it's tilting more towards a buyer's market. And look down at supply right here. So the 10-year average is about 9,400 homes for sale at any one time. Right now, we're sitting at 14,000, 15,000 homes for sale right now. That's almost not quite double, but it's probably 60, 70% more homes than we typically have, even pre-pandemic. So that is on the supply side. Demand's not terrible, but it's slower than average. So if I go back again, let me get myself out of the way here. So if I go back to this is August data. So if you look at this chart over here and we look at, let's say, the pandemic again, you had maybe 4,300 homes were sold in August of 2020. 3,700 homes were sold in 2021. Well, now we're at like 2,600 in a month. So that's about 1,000 to 1,500 fewer buyers a month. Multiply that over a year, you might have 15,000 fewer home sales in a year on top of the fact that we have more supply. But the buyers are only off, let's call it 20 or 30%, but the homes are up 5x. So we have 500% more homes for sale and maybe 30% fewer buyers. Those two things go together. So just know this is all about supply. It's going to take a minute to get all this supply worked through, to get the population moved here, to fill them up, and also to have buyer demand just pick back up to average. Add another 500 homes a month, add another 700 homes a month. All of a sudden, you're going to see that balance, boom, spike right back into normal. It might take a year or two, but we're going to be getting there. All right, let's talk about right now. This is active versus sold listings. The green is your active listings. The blue is your sold listings. And you can see, where did we peak out? Peaked out in the summer. Pretty typical. We peaked out on sales in May. And so now every month we're seeing sales just kind of trickle down. That's pretty typical at the end of the summer. We might see some flattening as we get into the fall, because typically now I call this the fall market. These are the people that want to buy a home before the end of the year. So they're starting to set those deadlines. Hey, I need a home by X. So they're going to get out there and start writing contracts. I put a buyer under contract this weekend. I've got several more looking. And so anyways, we're seeing a little bit of pickup on the listings after the summer. So we're seeing a little more traffic. So I would expect sales, in my opinion, probably going to go flat. What we're going to see is the number of listings going down. So that's going to be either they're getting sold or they're just taking themselves off the market, whether they're going into the rental market or just we'll keep it for now. So we're going to see that happens every year. So expect the number of listings to come down. Finally, here's another tailwind. Rates have been coming down. Like if you go back to May, we were above 7%. And for the last 3 years, we've been kind of toying above and below that kind of 7% mark. Well, we've now fairly consistently been around 6.5 for at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So pay attention to that. Rates are kind of mid sixes right now. The real question is, are they going to go below this? And I know everybody's waiting for the Fed, but I'll say it in every video. The Fed has nothing to do with your mortgage rate. The Fed just has to do with sentiment, how people feel. Maybe maybe it's a vote on the larger economy. If they lower the rate, they're saying, hey, the economy's slowing down. But generally, the bond market's going to dictate mortgage rates. And so really keep an eye on that 10-year treasury. Anyways, if you are a seller right now, look, if we want to get this property sold in 2025, now is the time. We got to set the right price, got to do what the buyers want us to do to get that thing sold in the next couple weeks, or sorry, couple months. I think September and October and early November are going to be real critical to making sure we can get your property sold in 2025. If you're a buyer right now, I would expect that you're not going to see as many listings pop up on new alerts. So don't expect every week, like you do in the spring, you're going to get 10, 20 new listings in your search. You might get a couple. So because there aren't as many sellers that list their properties in the fall. So be ready for that. Anyways, hope this video was helpful. Make sure to go to our YouTube channel at Ryan Kelly Group and click that subscribe button. You can follow us each and every week. And of course, if you know somebody looking to buy, sell, invest, or even refinance, pay attention to that. If you know somebody looking to refinance in Austin, make sure to reach out to us. Anyways, not a great weekend for the Horns, but hey, hopes are still up. Hook them, and talk to you next Monday. Thanks.